Israel calls up 60,000 reservists ahead of a new push on Gaza City. This is hot news. Watch till the end. The Israeli military has just called up about 60,000 reservists in extended service for roughly 20,000 soldiers already in uniform. The plan, approved by Defense Minister Israel Katz, prepares for a larger operation centered on Gaza City. Why does the call-up matter, really? IDF commanders say the next phase will target places where Hamas is still active, above ground and in the tunnel network under the city. While most frontline fighting would still be done by active duty units, the reservists would keep those units supplied, rested, and rotating. When will this take place? Call-up notices are expected within days, and many reservists would report from September. How are ceasefire talks in the background going? Mediators say Hamas has signaled it could accept a roughly 60-day truce tied to hostage releases. Unfortunately, Israel government has not backed the latest draft, and therefore the mobilization is widely seen as pressure and preparation for battle while negotiations continue. Is IDF and Israeli government being deaf to humanitarian warnings? Aid agencies fear another wave of civilians will be forced to move, and a bigger shortfall in food, water, medicine, and fuel will arise if a large assault on the city goes ahead. The military has talked about relocation plans and staging aid, but details are still unclear. So what are the likely consequences if the Gaza City operation expands, and what should we watch out for? Large number of people will be on the move, including children, women, and the frail. Expect new displacement from central and northern areas toward the south as evacuation notices widen. Crowded shelters mean higher risks of hunger and disease. Watch for UN updates on aid trucks, fuel and medical referrals, and any alerts about cholera or other diarrheal outbreaks from World Health Organization and/or the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. Hard, slow fighting will continue or perhaps escalate. Gaza City has dense high-rises and a deep tunnel network. Even after initial gains, clearing and holding ground could be slow and costly in human lives, including civilians and Israeli soldiers. Watch for a focus on tunnel and explosive device clearance and reports of the same neighborhoods being re-cleared. Hospitals will be under severe strain. Hospitals, clinics, and ambulances face greater risk from road closures and power or fuel shortages. Some facilities may need to evacuate, putting lives at risk. Watch for intensive care units and/or emergency rooms capacity will be stretched to the limit, fuel deliveries to hospitals, and whether humanitarian corridors are open or shut. Impact on potential ceasefire and hostage situation. A push on Gaza City will be read as leverage at the table. It could narrow space for a near-term deal, or speed one up if the costs rise too much for both sides. Watch for official responses to the truce draft and any short, quiet windows announced during drafting. Inside Israel, unfortunately, more call-ups mean strain on reservists and families. While these call-ups are compulsory, protests by hostage families and anti-war groups could grow. The government argues major operations are still required to defeat Hamas. Watch for reservist reporting rates, cabinet messaging, and coalition unity. Regional ripple effects. Large operations often bring flare-ups on other fronts, in Lebanon, Syria, or the Red Sea, as others test Israel's attention and air defenses. Watch for upticks in rocket and/or drone interceptions and border incidents. Problems at the borders and aid flow. The amount of food, fuel, medical supplies, and evacuations will hinge on crossings like Karem Shalamand, any arrangement for Rafah with Egypt and third parties. Watch for daily counts of trucks and fuel and signs of a reinforced crossings monitoring mission. Deteriorated access to information and safety, power and internet cuts, plus limits on movement for journalists and aid workers, will make it harder to verify events and easy for rumors to spread. Watch for safety alerts from NGOs and press groups. Potential war crime. Investigations and inability to abide by expected laws. Major city battles draw tighter scrutiny under international humanitarian law on proportionality, evacuation, and access for medics and aid. Watch for official investigations and United Nations and/or International Red Cross reporting on incidents. The day after the aftermath. The more damage done to water, sewage, and power, the harder the recovery, and the higher the risk of disease in Gaza City, affecting mostly women, children, the elderly, and the malnourished. Watch for steps toward an interim civil services authority, funding for repairs, and independent checks that fixes are real. A Gaza City offensive would be militarily complex and humanly costly operation. It could reshape negotiations between Israel and Hamas, strain Israel's home front, and stress a humanitarian system already near breaking point. The key signals will be unmissable and the key concerns will only increase. Who moves where? What help gets in? Will ceasefire talks narrow or advance? And will safeguards for civilians have been put in place? If in place, will such safeguards actually really work? Watch our other reports on Gaza and Israel, and on why no Gaza ceasefire yet. The 10 blockers plus real fixes.